Welcome to the OFCCP Institute. This is our December webinar. We wanted to give you an update on what's happening here at the Institute, as well as an update on what's happening with OFCCP from an enforcement and regulatory perspective. So the first thing we'll talk about is what's going on at OFCCP. I'm David Cohen, and I'm with DCI Consulting Group and also co-chair of the OFCCP Institute. Next to me is David Fortney Scott, also co-chair of the Institute. And then we have Mickey Silberman coming from Denver, and Mickey's with Jackson Lewis and also co-chair of the OFCCP Institute. So first thing we want to talk about, December webinar. Mickey, what do we have going on this month?
December. Mark your calendars, folks. December 17th, we will do a 1-hour complimentary webinar on OFCCP enforcement numbers, enforcement trends, what we've seen over the past year or so, conciliation agreements, the trends that we're seeing in those. So please come along and join us for that.
And as Mickey said, that is complimentary. We'll be sending out information on that. We'll be talking about compensation. We'll be talking about steering and other hot topics. Then in February, we're going to San Francisco. David, what are we doing in San Francisco?
Yay, love San Francisco. All right, so great to be with everyone again. In San Francisco for 2 days, we're having our first in-person meeting for the year. It's February 25 and 26. We're going to be down on Fisherman's Wharf, and we're going to cover, we have a really great program. Our biggest challenge, frankly, is to get all of the developments fit into this 2-day space that we have allotted. Information is available on the Institute's website, and you can go to www.theofccpinstitute.org. Register there, get more details about the meeting, but we have invitations out to representatives from the agency that are going to come. We have our all-star faculty that are going to be participating in depth, and obviously we've got a ton to talk about. So we're all pretty pumped about that.
Yeah, and as David said, check the website for more information about that session and the faculty that will be participating in that session, but really looking forward to that. The last thing we'll talk about in terms of the Institute and what's happening is we are really pleased to announce that as of January 1, 2015, the Institute will become a membership organization. And that really was a request from a lot of the folks who were attending our sessions and our webinars and our in-persons. Everyone kept saying, you know, you guys are doing such great and interesting stuff. How do we become a member? Ask and you shall receive. And so we're really looking forward to the membership organization. A lot of information will be on our website about that, but members will get access to our e-library. So events like this and other webinars and other information will be on a member-only portal within that website. We're going to have a monthly co-chair chat, so the members will be able to interact with the co-chairs and talk about hot topics and issues with OFCCP, a monthly newsletter, advocacy, and just a whole lot more.
Discounts on training.
Discounts on training
really
and webinars.
Cost-effective, right.
So take a look at the website and to get information and start planning now to become a member.
It's going to be exciting.
Yep. All right, gentlemen, let's talk about what's happening with OFCCP. Clearly a lot going on. We're at the end of the year, and CSALs just went out. So Mickey, what's going on with the CSALs?
Yeah, November 10th, folks, OFCCP sent out approximately 2,500 CSALs to employers throughout the land. Let's just define our terms. I think we know this, that CSALs used to stand for Corporate Scheduling Announcement Letter. OFCCP liked the acronym so much, so they kept CSALs, but now it's Courtesy Scheduling Announcement Letter. They're no longer corporate because the letters don't go to corporate. They're sent directly to the individual establishments, your facilities that are slated for audit through OFCCP's fiscal year. And this is interesting. So in speaking with the two Davids right before we got on here, I asked them about whether they're getting actual scheduling letters as well. And these two feel like they're almost overlapping. I'm hearing from clients all over the country that they are getting CSALs and getting actual scheduling letters within days after that, sometimes at the same time.
Sometimes in the same mail delivery. Yes.
Yes, right.
Exactly.
You know what? The OFCCP could have saved the stamp and put them in the same exact envelope. Although it
we'll
wouldn't
make
have
that suggestion. That's good.
Technically, I'm just trying to save you tax dollars, David. Technically, it would not have been an advance notice letter. Although I guess if they put
depends on which one you open.
Yeah.
Right? No, you open it as long as the advance letter is in front of the actual scheduling letter, then not much advance. Anyway, so we have 25 letters floating out there. If you are unsure whether you received a letter, you can fax the OFCCP. They'll confirm whether you received it. Why is this particularly important now? Because if you haven't yet got the scheduling letters, what's going to follow these advance notice letters, maybe sooner than later, are scheduling letters. And the scheduling letter has fundamentally changed in some very important ways. And I believe it prompts employers that much more so to seek to use this advance notice time in order to strategically get in a better position to respond when that impending letter comes. So David and David, tell us about the new scheduling letter and how it's different.
Okay, let me jump initially on the scheduling letter. So as Mickey indicates, that after you get the CSAL, then you move into this what we call audit readiness phase. And your chief guide at this point is what the new scheduling letter and itemized listing is going to require you to produce and provide to the OFCCP once the audit commences. Because we do know, we can be very certain, if you get a CSAL, you will get an audit notice. Some people say, am I going to waste my time? I don't think so at this point. We have a high level of confidence you will get an audit notice. In terms of the what's new, of course, we all know there is this new scheduling letter. There's been a lot of sound and fury surrounding that. There are a number of changes, some of them more technical than others, but I think some of the headline level changes include how compensation data is presented. That's probably the biggest change, and in terms of the biggest lift and burden to contractors. Certainly not the only one, but the biggest one. Now we are going to have to provide a significant amount of compensation in terms of each individual as opposed to the groupings which it previously was provided. We also, there's a question as to whether base compensation alone or additional compensation, bonuses, commissions, a wide range of additional supplemental compensation. It's in the permissive. It should be provided under the scheduling letter, so grappling with that strategy. So certainly that is something, and there are other points with respect to vets and so forth, and of course those programs are just starting. So I think it's fair to say most contractors we anticipate are simply going to be able to demonstrate, yes, we have those processes in place, we don't yet have results to show you. Comp and hiring is where I think the majority of the action is going to be on this round of audits.
Yeah, I mean, I think David, you're right. I mean, I think compensation is the big thing, right? Because prior to this, we had item 11, which was summary compensation data, where OFCCP would run some sort of screen and then send a 12, 15, 16, 18, 20, or 20 some odd factor letter requesting individualized data to do a regression analysis. Now they're going to be collecting that individualized data right out of the gate, but not just base pay, all the other forms of compensation. I think what we don't know, and what's yet to be determined, is what is OFCCP going to do with that data? What are they going to do with bonuses? What are they going to do with commission? What are they going to do with overtime hours or travel reimbursement? How do they handle that? Do they aggregate it all together, which there are problems with doing that? And I think that's what we are really interested in seeing. We'll certainly talk about that in February, but that's something to keep an eye on, is how do we analyze it and what's OFCCP going to do with it?
I think it's a good point.
Go ahead, Mick.
Let's mention one thing, guys. So for you out there who handle the audits for your organization, here's the challenge you have as you get these scheduling letters. Cohen is exactly right. We don't yet know how the OFCCP is going to analyze it. But overtime is going to sit in a separate column in what you submit. Commissions are going to sit in a separate column. My recommendation to you, at the very least, prior to submission, is to know, do we have disparities by race and gender? For instance, you have a job, same job, 10 males, 10 females. The males have significantly more overtime pay than the women do. That's something you'd want to identify. And if I were you, I'd like you to go to your higher-ups, your manager, and say, I want you to be aware that this disparity exists. This has been requested by the OFCCP. There's nothing to do in the way of adjustments now, but I don't want you to be in a position where the OFCCP is pointing out to you and your boss that kind of disparity only after you submit the plan. You want to show sophistication around this and be aware these are a different set of data requirements and that you're being proactive, at least in identifying what the OFCCP may find.
Yeah, I think the problem that we're going to see is, and I've had conversations with OFCCP about this, some of the other forms of compensation are discrete compensation decisions, and what predicts that those types of things are very different than base pay. So try to lump it all together and say, that's the outcome, let's try to predict what caused that outcome. You can't do that in the same model.
Now, critical takeaway, though, that both of you have illustrated is, it is essential that during this audit readiness period, as soon as you get that CSAL, you should be turning immediately to starting to grapple with these issues.
Yeah.
And I would also add, I would do that on an attorney privilege basis. So there's no question that you don't have to turn your work papers over, if you will, to the OFCCP as part of your audit response.
Yeah. The other thing to mention on the scheduling letter, right, we've got the applicant data. Once again, with the new letter, you can submit that data by job group or job title. And contractors should take advantage of the or job title option. The other thing is now, instead of submitting by total minority, we're going to be doing subgroup analyses. And I know the three of us have been talking about that for a long time in the Institute sessions and webinars. It's all about the highest selected group now. And if you're not doing that, you're going to be really surprised going forward in an audit.
I think there's an important point there, guys, practically, for those listening in on this. Many of you have software. You've bought software packages from third parties where the software you have has simply not kept up with this innovation. This has been building with OFCCP for a while, where they look at this at a specific sub-minority level, which group is most favored. As a takeaway from this webinar, go back and take a look at your software. If your software simply does white versus minority, and go no further if there are no red flags, if it defaults to white as the favored group, which is the benchmark to compare the others to, that software is effectively obsolete for purposes of preparing for OFCCP audits.
You'll get false negative results.
False negatives, false positives. And one thing we'll talk about in February in San Francisco is, how does this relate to compensation? And how do you do a highest paid analysis, which is pretty darn complex and certainly something that we'll address in February. The other thing is, as David mentioned, the 503 and VEVRA. For a lot of us, right, January 1 is our compliance date, so we're not going to be submitting information as it relates to 503 and VEVRA data analytics probably until a year next cycle. So although it'll have it in the letter, it may not apply to you. But with that being said, one of the things that we're seeing as a trend under 503 is the whole process of inviting employees to self-identify. I know we wrote some blogs about this, about the issue of participation in those types of self-surveys. What we're seeing, and I don't know if you guys are seeing this, as predicted, less than 5% of the employees are participating in that survey. And that's not to say 5% are saying they're disabled. Only 5% of the workforce are opening up the survey, filling it out. And by definition, if that's the case, you're never going to hit your 7% goal. So it will be interesting.
I don't think that's surprising. It will be interesting to see whether OFCCP now calls the contractor and says, "Oh, you're not engaging in sufficient good faith efforts. You're not making a welcoming environment." The other kind of advanced criticisms that the agency has indicated it might lodge. I mean, honestly, are any of us surprised by these results? We're not. I don't think anyone on this call is, because in our society, this is not a topic that most people want to talk about. It's considered private information.
Really is fascinating in that sense that this is one of the last protected areas that both the people who are within that protected area and those outside of it view it as a stigma. So it's not surprising that Cohen's numbers are showing as low as they are. One point on that, and Fortney just mentioned it, the good faith efforts, right? The measure of our compliance is not whether we hit this number, the 7%, but rather whether we are making efforts in that regard. And we're going to have an obligation to do an assessment of the effectiveness of our good faith efforts. I continue to talk with contractors where they're thinking about good faith efforts in a very traditional, almost anachronistic way, which I call the push out, right? You identify recruitment sources, you push your jobs out there, and then you're done. But the reality is some of those sources are going to be more effective for you. They're going to give you candidates, they're going to give you quality candidates, and others, they may do nothing at all. It's critical that you, because we anticipate that you're going to miss this 7% goal so often, that you're focusing on those good faith efforts and not just the push out, whether you're getting the efforts out there, but monitoring the effectiveness of the pull in and changing it up. My recommendation to my clients is the next scheduling letter you get rid of 1 or 2 recruitment sources before you finalize that plan. Add a couple of recruitment sources and say that in the plan. We've assessed our recruitment sources, and as a result, we've lost some and we've added these. And that's a pretty effective way of showing the OFCCP that you're being active with this.
You want to take a moment, just mention about sex guidelines?
Yeah,
because we're about to run out of time.
Yeah, the last thing that we'll talk about, and once again, we'll spend some time on this in February, is regulatory. You've got the equal pay report. The comments have been pushed out, and the Institute will be submitting comments real soon on that. We've got the construction regs that may come out in 2015. And we just learned, as of last Friday, that the OFCCP sent over to OMB the sex discrimination guidelines. So OMB is now evaluating the notice of proposed rulemaking on the sex discrimination guidelines. We do not know what's in it. My hunch is they're going to bake in some compensation requirements into the sex discrimination guidelines. Once OMB reviews that, releases it, it goes back to OFCCP, and OFCCP will put that out for notice and comment. The last thing we didn't mention is that the LGBT
regs. Right. So it's likely in February we're going to have a bunch of these regulatory initiatives. We'll have more detail on them. We can really spend some time, plow through them in detail, and get everyone ready for that.
2015 is going to be a big year for OFCCP in terms of regulatory. Last thing, once again, join us in December for the enforcement webinar. Go check out our website for information on membership, as well as the event in February in San Francisco. And good luck, and thanks so much for joining.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.